want to pivot to another monster, Monstro, I believe it's pronounced. David Benavidez moving up to cruiserweight to fight longtime sparring opponent Zurdo Ramirez. You look at the odds, you look at everything. David's an early favorite, right? I can tell you how much of a favorite he is shortly, but David is, rather decent sized favorite going into this, minus 430, so slightly less than Inoue over Nakatani, right? Do you think Zurdo is being disrespected here as he's been fighting in this weight class longer? He's a champion. Pretty good. Zurdo has what? One loss on his
Yeah, because he lost to this guy.
Bivo.
I can't say it's disrespectful because I think Benavidez, rightfully so, is the favorite. However, I truly believe there will be some level of resistance going into that fight. I don't think Zurdo is going to be sweet. I think given the size difference, and this is one of the things that critics have said about David Benavidez, David Benavidez has always been bigger and stronger than opponents. And now this is arguably the first time outside of, you can maybe argue morale, they're roughly the same size, but David Benavidez is probably bigger in that fight. And also the fight shortly before that.
Vosdick.
Yeah, was Zoldyck, right? Zoldyck was probably physically bigger than Benavidez. But I would say Zurdo is significantly bigger than those two opponents. And I think that's going to play a role with him being more comfortable at that weight and having to kind of take punches from a bigger guy. Benavidez has the volume, so that's heavily in his favor, but he has to also get acclimated in that fight, right? In terms of his stamina, being reserved, picking his shots, and not just going in there throwing 8-punch or 6-punch combinations and not expecting anything to come back in between those shots. So I think there's going to be some resistance. And I do have Benavidez winning, but I wouldn't say comfortably.
Yeah. So the one thing you always there's always a cause to pause when people are familiar with one another, and these two are familiar with one another. So like whatever you think, you can oftentimes throw that out the window, because when I'm stepping in there, I'm like, I know you. Whatever they think, that's not what I think of you in most cases, right? A la Lamont Roach, Tank Davis, right? So there's going to be a lot of comfortability on both ends, but David is going up 25 pounds from where he had to make weight in his last fight, right? So cruiserweight 200. I don't know what he's going to come in at, but I think at least 190 something, right?
Yeah.
At least 190 something. Maybe 200 on the dot, but at least 190 something. That's what he's going to weigh in. And I guess I know he didn't want to wait around for what was going to happen at light heavyweight, but I know a lot of people think, hey, if I fight closer to my walk around weight, I'm going to feel better. But the point you made about potentially gassing out, right? His first fight at 175, we seen him kind of gas out a bit. But he looked good in that fight, right? It didn't look like he was going to gas out against Yard.
Yeah, but that was like like you mentioned, acclimation period. It wasn't like when he first.
So now, I wouldn't even say he fully got to settle in at light heavyweight before now going up, to a division Zordo's been fighting at. Zordo's a southpaw. Zurdo likes to exchange, but at times he can bait for the counter. Sometimes he changes levels, right? Zurdo's a good fighter. And if you go back and watch the Bivol fight, Zurdo probably won round 1 and 2. It was a while ago, so memory doesn't serve me correctly, but I definitely think Zurdo won round 1. He may have won round 2. Bivol may have pitched a sweep from there, but he did some things to make Bivol uncomfortable before Bivol started asserting himself. Now, Bivol, I would say, is more of a tactician than Benavidez, right? And I think Benavidez can be baited into a fight here because both of them want to exchange. Zurdo being the bigger man, like single punch power, Zurdo probably punches a little harder than Benavidez, just one punch, right? Benavidez obviously has the combinations, but just one punch. Zurdo probably punches a little harder, more acclimated to the weight. And like I said, I think they're both going to be there to hit. Benavidez is the better inside fighter, so I can see him putting combinations together. But if he starts to slow down and then they exchange, can Zurdo possibly put him down? I don't see Zurdo stopping him, but Zurdo's never been down. So he probably takes a punch a little better than Benavidez, who's been down in his career. So,
yeah,
I don't want any mystery here. I'm picking Benavidez, right? Similar to you. I'm picking Benavidez. I don't necessarily see it being a landslide. I know Benavidez said he's going to get the stoppage, but I can see this one going the distance and being a pretty tough fight. I'm expecting a war here. If Benavidez was to get a stoppage, I would say it's by a nasty cut, like he cuts Zurdo and it opens up very badly, you know. But I don't think he's going to just be dropping Zurdo and knock him out, you know.
Yeah, I don't see that either. I mean, he can probably overwhelm Zurdo to the point where he drowns him. That can be a potentiality, but very low, very
Hmm.
unlikely, in my opinion. So yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Yeah. Like I said, two guys who know each other, like they stack up well with each other. I mean, once again, box rec is telling me they're the same height, even though I think Zordo looks a little taller.
Zurdo's taller.
Definitely looks like he has a
Yo,
bigger
whoever
frame.
is running that box rec page, yo, y'all got to do better. I mean, but then again, you got the NBA telling people that KD's 7'1". So
Nah,
I mean,
they be listing KD at 6'9", which I think is more egregious.
see, they switching it up. All like
Yeah.
it's man, it's crazy. So, but I think we need to do a better job of just being more accurate. And someone can argue they probably wearing platform shoes. No, them Zerto's taller than Benavidez. That's a fact.
Yeah, because it's saying Benavidez 6'2", 74.5-inch reach. It's saying Zordo is 6'2" and a half, 75-inch reach.
See,
So
no, he's not. He's taller. You can even see it in the older pics too when they're like have their arms around each other. Zerto's taller.
yeah, but nevertheless, right? So they're gonna stack up, and like you said, this can be probably the first time that we see a guy that's definitively bigger than Benavidez. So from you, like your opinion, like from the critic standpoint, if Benavidez goes in and dominates a guy bigger than him, because like let's say he outskills him or outwork him, which I can definitely see him outworking Zordo. Like, what do you think is left for the critics to say about the quote unquote weight bully?
Oh, they don't just you know how everyone. Oh, Benavidez ain't fight no one. Who's Zurdo? Zurdo lost to X, Y, and Z. Go fight Bivol. Like they're always going to move the goalpost. That's just how people are. They're willing to move the goalpost unless it's their favorite fighter. Then they're looking
Yep.
at all the excuses. That's just how it is. But for me, if he goes and dominates Zurdo, that's a plus in my book. I'll actually be impressed with that because then now it's like, okay, you can actually dominate folks that are bigger and probably hit harder than you do in terms of for each singular punch. So for
Yeah.
me, I'll be impressed for sure. But if I'm
Okay.
a critic, I can probably just nitpick on who Zurdo is in terms of his resume, and it's not like you fought someone that was probably your equal or better than who you are, right? Especially in the skills department.
Yeah. All right. So let's say Benavidez goes in and wins this fight, right? Wins the fight convincingly. What do you want? And let's say he wins the fight convincingly. Let's say either Bivol or Beterbiev become available at 175 and Opatai is available at cruiserweight. Who would you like to see him fight next if he wins this fight convincingly?
Oh, see that's you know how I feel about fighters jumping up in weight and going back down. I
Hmm.
personally felt like Benavidez should have stayed at 175. Um, and I get it. I mean, it's his career. He didn't want to just sit and wait around on these two fighters. I think in this case, what I think would probably work out best for him is if he stays at cruiserweight and fight Opetaya. That's personally what I would think. But ideally, I do think it's a bigger fight if he went down and fought Bivol, or if Bivol and Arthur get their trilogy, the winner of that fight. If not,
Hmm.
it would probably be better for the fan base to fight Bivol. But I think he'll probably be doing himself a disservice because when you're cutting down on weight, and we've seen it with Roy Jones, we've seen it with many fighters. It has an effect on you when you're coming down in weight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that Opatai fight is a good one, but I'd rather see him mix it up with the guys at 75, assuming he can still make 75 because he's been calling for those fights for a while. And it was interesting when he came into the division, right? There was a third name that we actually thought, hey, could this guy upset the top two guys? Before that, I don't think that was a real thought. Like I don't think we think that about Morrell, right? I don't think we look at Morrell and say, hey, Morrell can probably go in there and beat Bivol. Morrell can go in there and probably beat Beterbiev. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we and I don't know what about what's the dude name, English dude, I'm
Oh,
not Ben Whitaker. I don't think we think that about Ben Whitaker present day, right? So I think
yeah.
Benavidez made it very interesting in that 175-pound division. So I would like to see him go back down there and get one of those fights if available. But obviously, if not, Opatai try to unify the belts at cruiserweight.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, yeah. Not much mention of the undercard for me. I know we got Resendez versus Jaime Munguia. Should be an interesting fight. Kind of sad that we didn't get to see Jamal though. I know Jamal was originally supposed to be on the card. Would have been looking forward to that. Now that that didn't shake out, I just think they got to just make him versus Plant.
I agree.
Um,
That is
but
long overdue.
yeah, yeah, they should have even squeezed if they were, squeeze that on the undercard and then Munguia Resendez. I thought that would have been good, but not much praise on this undercard for me. It'll probably be exciting. It may be exciting, but nothing too notable for me to mention right now. So I think we're in agreement here. In a way, we both got Benavidez, correct?
Correct.
All right. Those are the predictions. So make sure you guys jump in the comment section. Tell us who you think are going to win these fights. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. 2 cents short of a dollar. Be back at it soon.